Hey class, today we are going to finish up Call of the Wild and read chapter 9 together. Quick disclaimer. So, starting on page 190, we have a couple things that happen. Some Indians attack the camp and unfortunately kill some of our dogs and some of our characters. Buck then attacks those Indians, and then there's also some encounters with some wolves. Nothing too gory, nothing too detailed. So I'm not going to skip anything today because it's important for us to read this chapter in its entirety so we really understand what's going on with Buck and how the story ends. But just keep that in mind starting on page 190 for my more sensitive readers. Just bear in mind those couple of things that are going to be happening. All right, sit back and follow along with me as we read chapter 9 of The Call of the Wild. The sounding of the call. In 5 minutes, Buck had earned $1,600 for John Thornton. Now he and his partners could search for the lost gold mine. Months went by and they traveled many miles. They did not find the lost mine, but they found a rich deposit of gold in a river valley. The men worked every day. They mined a lot of gold. The dogs had little to do. Buck grew restless. Something was calling him. He did not know what it was. He would often go into the forest. He spent hours exploring it. The wild called for him at all hours. One night he woke up suddenly. He heard a familiar call. It was a long howl. He dashed into the woods. He saw a timber wolf with his nose pointed toward the sky. The wolf fled. Buck followed. He finally caught up and he cornered the wolf. It snarled and snapped. Buck circled around him. When he got the chance, the wolf ran away. Buck chased after it. Buck felt wild happiness. He was answering the strange call. He was running with his wolf brother. They stopped to drink from a stream. Buck thought of John Thornton. He started back to camp. The wolf pointed his nose upward and howled. It was a sad howl. Buck kept going. John Thornton was eating dinner. Buck stopped to say hello. He was happy to see his master again. Buck stayed at camp for 2 days. Then the call in the forest began to sound again. It was stronger than ever. Buck roamed the forest. He searched for his wild brother. He began to stay away from camp for days at a time. Buck became an expert hunter. He killed small animals to eat. Buck had been gone for a while. He started back to the camp, but something was wrong. He felt it. Here's where page 190 is coming up, so just keep in mind that disclaimer. He found Blackie with an arrow sticking out of his side. He was dead. Buck crept forward. He saw Hans. He was lying on his face, and there were arrows in his back. Buck looked toward the center of camp, and he was filled with rage. He lost his mind. Yeehaw Indians were dancing around the ruins of the camp. Buck hurled himself at them. He wanted to destroy them. He ripped the chief's throat open. Then he attacked another. He moved quickly. Confused, the Yeehats began to shoot each other. And in a panic, they fled, screaming into the woods. Buck followed them. He dragged them down like deer. When he returned to camp, he found John Thornton's body. He was lying in a pool of water. Buck stayed there all day. He knew that John Thornton was dead. He felt empty inside. Night fell. A full moon rose high over the trees. Buck stood up and listened. He heard the familiar call. He was ready to obey. John Thornton was dead. The last tie was broken. The claims of a man no longer bound him. The wolf pack came into the clearing. Buck stood in the center, waiting for them. The largest wolf leaped at him. Buck broke its neck. 3 others tried, but they backed off. Then the whole pack attacked. They wanted to get Buck, but he was quick. He fought them all. The wolves got tired. And the pack backed away. One wolf came up to Buck in a friendly way. Buck recognized his wild brother. They touched noses. The rest of the pack came forward. They all sat and began to howl. Now the call came to Buck, too. He sat and howled. Then the pack ran away into the woods. This time, Buck ran side by side with his wild brothers. The Yeats tell of a ghost dog that runs at the head of the wolf pack. They are afraid of him. He steals from their camps. He kills their dogs. He slashes men's throats. The Yeehats see prints in the snow. They are larger than any wolf. Each fall, the Yeehats follow the moose. But there is a certain valley they never enter. In the summer, there is always one visitor to the valley. It is a great wolf, much larger than any of the others. He sits among the trees. He howls once very sadly, then he leaves. This wolf is not always alone. The Yeats have seen him with his pack. He towers over them. He sings the song of his world. It is the song of the pack. And that concludes chapter 9 and our book, The Call of the Wild.